Okay, time to hit work. Today's ride's a bit old school.
My first disarm.
Check it out. That's right. Today I'm rolling in a W140 S-Class. Okay, now I've got to admit it. During my younger days, I was not at all a fan of the W140 S-Class. But of course, today, Mercedes enthusiasts regard this as perhaps the last great S-Class. Now, my favorite S-Class, of course, is none other than the W126, but the 140 similarly hails from an era where Mercedes left no expenses spared in engineering and constructing their flagship to the highest possible standards. And of course, we know the W220 that followed after that was notoriously unreliable, especially with so many of them in junkyards now sitting on sagging air suspensions. Now, the 140, well, maybe more than 30 years old by now, but this car, like all S-classes that came before and all S-classes that come after and will continue to come, was an immensely sophisticated technological masterpiece of its time. This was the very first car commercially available that ran on CAN bus electronics. Basically, it's a central module that control all of the car's electronic systems. It started right here in the 140 S-Class. And of course, this particular example that I'm driving also has a number of other features that even by today's standards is considered luxurious. It had soft closed door, so basically you don't have to slam the door, you just gently click it in and an air pump will pull the doors shut. Now, there were a variety of engines that powered the 140, and here is an interesting story with regards to the origins of the 140 S-Class. Now, development, the R&D engineering work for this car began in 1981, and Mercedes was about to launch it in 1989 when BMW pulled off a surprise and introduced a V12 7 Series. So with that development, Mercedes said, oh no, we can't let that happen, and they went back to the drawing board to re-engineer the 140 in order to take a V12 engine. And in fact, they were going to even further one up BMW by developing, but eventually not launching, a V16 engine. Imagine that, a 16-cylinder engine S-Class. Because remember, BMW had that E32 Goldfish. Mercedes was watching that. They were getting ready for the arms race that eventually, well, stopped at the V12. Now, the particular example that I am driving today is the S320. So it had a 3.2 liter inline six engine. There's also a 2.8 liter entry level model as well, but above this would be the V8 and the V12 engines. Now, output wise, this 3.2 engine makes 230 horsepower, 300 newton meters of torque. So it does not sound very impressive. And looking at the bulk of the 140, I was expecting it to be a bit of a lumbering giant, except that, well, it is a giant, but this is not what I would call an underpowered car. Typically, I have not driven this car at high speeds, but in the 2 to 3,000 RPM range, I would say that the engine has a very rich and creamy amount of torque that allows it to pull smoothly and effortlessly as you cruise along. And that is a very important criteria, a very important characteristic to have in a flagship model like the S-Class. Now, this is not what you would call a dynamic car by any stretch of the imagination, but handling is solid, it is stable at speeds. The steering is not very precise, but that is not the kind of thing that you bother with behind the wheel of an S-Class anyways, even if you are behind the wheel. Majority of S-Class passengers, remember, sit right there at the back. From my perspective, keeping in mind the context of what this car is made for and also its age, I would say this car drives nothing short of being absolutely beautiful. This is a peach of a car to drive. Yeah, the 6-cylinder engine is not the fastest, but it is smooth revving and it is ever willing, ever ready to pull. And the most important part is it pulls this car along with great dignity. Now, the good news with the 140 is that you can have this car without air suspension, and this example here does not have it. But does it suffer for the ride? It does not. You see, back in the day of the 140 S-Class, 16 and 17 inches wheels are considered large. This particular example that I'm driving is riding on 20-inch wheels. So the ride quality, it can be a little jiggly on harsh surfaces, but overall, the suspension still copes admirably with the terrain. And this is the beauty of luxury cars from this era. They are tuned with so much comfort that even if you fit wheels that were bigger than they were meant to take, you still get a very comfortable ride. There is that beautiful suppleness to the way the body moves as I cruise along the lower deck of the NPE. So one thing about the 140 is that when negotiating in tight spaces, there is no hiding its size. This car is big and it feels big, make no mistake about it. So the steering is, well, it's not as precise as a BMW steering, but the high-speed competency of this car is still not to be scoffed at. The nose is faithful enough to your inputs that you can steer this car around with confidence. Because remember, this car was designed to ferry VIPs, to ferry all the big taukes, the ministers, government leaders and whatnot. Mercedes, when they engineered this car, they had in mind that at any time, the occupants of this car may be subject to a pursuit and needs to be able to handle a fast getaway without getting into trouble. So as I bomb down the NPE at speed, the car remains resolutely stable. It remains resolutely planted. The steering is giving me a bit of a wiggle, a bit of a free play, which could be due to the age of the car more than anything else. Like, let's say right now I'm going down the tunnel, taking this bend. The chassis has that hunkered down feel that gives me that sense of assurance in piloting the car. So not what we call sporty, that's not what it was designed for, but it's competent and assuring enough. Okay, so now we often comment how cars in recent years have grown by gargantuan proportions. But right here, I have a chance meeting with the W140 next to the much more recent 222 S-Class. Now, the 222 generation, of course, is no longer the current Gen S-Class, but bear in mind, this is still a 3-generation removed successor of the 140. But if you look at it, in terms of road presence, the 140 versus the 222 hardly looks like a small car. In fact, if you look at it here, the front ends of the two cars are aligned perfectly. The front wheels here, both are on the parking line of the box. And now that we move to the back, you see that the 140 is only very slightly shorter than the 222. And in terms of road presence, next to its distant successor, the 140 still has it. It still looks like a car with a stately presence. So the W140 was launched in 1991, but Mercedes only started officially calling it the S-Class in 1993. You see, earlier models carried the older school badging system of having the 3-digit engine designation followed by the SE or SEL or SEC suffixes to denote the car's body style. And you know what's even funnier is that the 2.8-liter model was initially called the 300 SE 2.8 before it became the S280. The 3.2-liter model as well was called the 300 SE initially, and eventually it became the S320. Now, the 140 was designed by Bruno Sacco. This is the man who influenced a whole generation of Mercedes-Benz designs. Every car, bus, and truck from 1975 to 1999. But here's a not so fun fact. In a 2009 interview with Automobile magazine, Sacco confessed that out of all the cars that he has worked on, the 140 is his least favorite because he thinks that it is 4 inches too tall. So in any case, there is no hiding the fact that the W140 is a huge car, even by today's standards. See, this long wheelbase version here that I have, for example, is just 7.6 centimeters shorter in length compared to the current generation W223 S-Class. Or to give you another context, this car is 1 millimeter longer than the long wheelbase version of the BMW F017 series. But don't let the big proportions fool you. This car has a drag coefficient of 0.31, which means it is actually pretty aerodynamic in its design. Now, come check out this classic Mercedes grille. Notice how the metal actually extends down from the bonnet and frames the grille all the way down to the bumper. So you see, the metal extrusion technology that enables this design was considered cutting-edge stuff at that time, and the W140 was only the second model after the R129 SL class to have this extruded bonnet design, and this later trickled down to the W124 E-Class facelift. And you know what's interesting? BMW later responded by having a whole new generation of models, the E38 7 Series, E39 5 Series, and E46 3 Series that have this similar bonnet extrusion to frame the grille. But you won't see this kind of design anymore because of pedestrian crash safety standards, and sad. So now the W140 was facelifted in 1994, and one of the clear ways to differentiate between the facelift and pre-facelift cars is from the rear. You see, in the pre-facelift cars, this white reflector bar that spans the entire width of the car is a one-piece design, and it is straight. Whereas here in the facelift model, visually, it looks like it is split into 3 different pieces, but in actual fact, the outer section here is now integrated into the main taillight assembly with the reverse light here. And you can see also it rises here, and also the edge of the boot lid here is rounded in the facelift, but sharp in the pre-facelift model. See, recently I just went to view another unit of the W140 pre-facelift that attempted to convert into a facelift design. What they did was that they put these facelift taillights, but they didn't change the boot. And as a result, you have a sharp edge meeting this rounded edge here, and the whole appearance was very, very jarring. So as you can see, this particular example of the W140 has enjoyed a no-expense spared restoration by its owner. It is fully outfitted with a whole bunch of original Brabus barang that really enhances its Yakuza credentials. Let's put it this way. You see one guy rolling in one of these, the fella get down, chances are you look at him, you won't even want to mess with that guy. Now also, this car may be 30 years old, but there are still plenty of touches here to impress. Like for example, I pop the boot, come down, soft close boot, and soft closed doors. Now see why this car is so quiet? Double pane window glass. Check this out. Rear seats got power adjustment. Right? Oh, see that? Power recline. You've got an armrest here, no cup holders. You've got rear blowers here as well. But see, by today's standards, not much in terms of gizmos and gadgets to play with. But for its time, this is the real sense of luxury. Okay, I'm 170 centimeters tall, got a fist of headroom above me, plenty of legroom in front to cross my legs, and also we've got a vanity mirror as well with lighting. Pretty cool. There's an ashtray here at the rear doors. Yeah, so nothing much to do here at the back from a gizmo standpoint, but still a pretty nice, comfy, spacious, and pleasant environment. So now it's time to bring you to the driver's seat. So you can see you've got memory function here for the electric seats. Got airbags at the door. Remember, this is a 30-year-old car, yeah? Okay, look at the inside. It's all gray interior. Very, very beautifully old school Mercedes. There are a number of, I would say, very period correct aftermarket modifications that the owner has invested into this car. So there are these specialized A-pillars with the built-in speakers here. Now, these speakers, right, are damn amazing, okay? Let me show you from this angle. They are damn amazing. Why? Because when I listen to them, okay, now you see in front here is kosong, right? It feels as if the sound from the audio system is projected from here. So it must be some really brilliant sound engineering whereby these two speakers, their sound is directed in such a way that they interfere right here and cause you to hear as if the sound originates from here. Very, very clever. Now, here at the side, you can see, let me just start the car. All right, good old-fashioned key start. Now, of course, the Mercedes old-school parking brake. Pull to release, step to engage. This is the steering adjustment. Check this out. Pull, push. So you've got tilt and telescopic. Okay, headlamp switch here. Now, what's this? This is interesting. So you've got this display here and this display here. What is this? Let me show you. So now I'm moving the car slightly forward. This is actually the parking sensor proximity detection. So as I move the car forward, okay, this indicates that I'm closer and closer to the object. Left side, right side. When I reverse, see that? That is the display for the reverse sensor. Pretty cool. Now we come down here. Let me show you first the instrument cluster. Now these are not the original instrument clusters that came with the car, but this is a set of original Brabus instruments, UK spec, that the owner has acquired and put into this car. So very classic old school analog, right? You've got the fuel consumption reading, water temperature, fuel gauge, oil pressure. So the whole bunch of warning lights down here. You've got digital display that shows the mileage, external temperature, the 2-unit speedometer, which reads 2 digits, and also a conventional but classy looking analog clock. Now notice that such as the width of the cluster, it displaces the central air con vents slightly to the side. So it does not align straight with the center console. So you already back, this is a 30-year-old car, okay, so you've got remote boot release, you've got lock and unlock button here, dual zone climate control, ASR anti-skid regulation, basically traction control, side mirror adjustment, power window switches here at the center console. Now check this out. This is old school Mercedes gated shifter. Mercedes were the ones who pioneered this gated shifter design that many other car makers eventually adopted. So this unit I'm driving here, this is the last batch S320 with the 5-speed automatic transmission. As you can see, you can go from D to 4, 3, 2, 1. Right. So here as well, this is the powered sunshade and also the parking sensors on and off button. You've got the center console box here. All right, you can open this. This is a 2-layer center console box. And under here, well, this is another lidded box. And the owner has also fitted a smart tag in here, a built-in smart tag. This is, of course, a retractable lid to open up to the ashtray. And check this out, okay? So this is to release the ashtray, right? Spring-loaded. Take it out, clean out the ashtray, and you want to put it back in. Snap it in. This is, of course, a popular mod from those days. Back then, the S-Class has a simple single-DIN audio system. Of course, the owner has since outfitted it with a Pioneer unit. No Android, okay, but it has a touchscreen, and it also has a built-in reverse camera. Okay, so some subtle efforts of modernization. And you can see over there, even the front passenger has memory adjustment. Here, glove box release 1 and 2. All right. So this is the air con blower adjustment. So this one adjusts that when. This adjusts that when. This adjusts the 2 middle vents. This adjusts the driver's side when for you to regulate the airflow coming out from the blowers. So by today's standards, this is considered a very rudimentary cabin, but bear in mind, the W140 is a very mechanical car, so a lot of its luxuries are, well, mechanically operated. And as I drive this car, as I've been driving this car for the past few days, I just can't help but marvel at the sheer solidness, the way this car drives, and also the quietness in which it moves. It's such a dignified cruiser that I thoroughly enjoy the driving experience, even though it isn't a very sporty one. And also rudimentary by today's standards, the W140 may be. This car is nevertheless responsible for pioneering CAN bus electronic architecture that is now part and parcel of so many modern cars on the road. See, CAN bus is basically, think of it as one central module that controls all the electronic system in the car, which allows your present day infotainment systems to read out information such as fuel consumption and whatever engine data. Whereas last time in the old days, your infotainment unit and your instrument cluster, whatever, they are all disparate systems. The CAN bus is the electronic architecture that unifies all the electronic system into one control, and it started here in the W140 S-Class. So the W140 S-Class, a true technical marvel of its era. And as we always say, if you want to know what the car of tomorrow is like, all you have to do is to look at the Mercedes S-Class of today. Now, the W140 may be 30 years old. By today's standards, it is considered a relatively rudimentary car, very analog, very mechanical. But Even that being said, driving it today, one cannot help but feel impressed by the engineering integrity that went into building this car to ensure that it operates at always the highest possible standards. There's just that feel of solidness inside this car that you know that the engineer of the day that designed this car, the people that assembled this car at the factory back then, held themselves to the highest possible standards, and it shines through even 30 years after this car has left the showroom. So I'd like to hear from you if you have memories or if you have aspirations of the W140 S-Class. Do share your thoughts in the comment section below. Let me know how the W140 has impacted your life or your imagination. And if you enjoyed today's video, give it a like, and of course, do subscribe to my channel if you have not already done so. And remember that on Monday nights, Bobby, Tana, Thomas, and myself are live on Facebook and YouTube to take your car buying questions. And of course, you can connect with me directly on Telegram. Link is in the description section, or you can follow this QR code right here. And finally, of course, if you have any car care or car detailing needs, you can always reach out to the Evo Club Car Wash team to find out what are our latest packages and promos. And that brings my video today to its end. I'll see you in the next one.